Aloha and welcome to week number 6, module number 6. This week we'll be talking about language or verbal communication. So last week talked about nonverbal communication, and that was everything besides the words. So this week we're talking about the words, only the words, okay, besides the tone and everything else. So let me briefly go through the assignments for this week as usual, and if you want to stick around, I'll go into the chapter and the slides in more detail. You can see this week relates to the course learning objective. The third one, actually all of them really, but the third one there, demonstrate and evaluate effective verbal and nonverbal communication. So we're talking about the words we're going to use. And throughout this chapter, as you read, think about your invitational speech, which is coming up next week. What words can you use in your speech to really be invitational to everyone, right? So it's kind of the almost opposite of a persuasive speech where you're trying to win an argument. You're trying to put everyone's side out there. So as you write it, think of this chapter. Think of the words you're going to use and the story you're going to tell. So another regular week in here, you have a Flipgrid video due, and then a quiz and a discussion forum post this week. So on discussion forum post, everyone's doing a great job writing about the terms and illustrating with their own examples. Be sure to do the speech brainstorm. If you're not sure what to do, go back and look at folks what they've been posting already, right? You don't have to read all of them, but look at, we'll look at some of the titles pretty soon here. But try to go in there and see what topics people are talking about, and beyond that, look at the feedback I'm giving folks. And I think that'll help you get a really good idea. It's like talking in class, right? Of what kind of topics will work or what might be challenging about other topics, okay? But please do the brainstorms at the end of these discussion forums. So this week's Flipgrid, again, you don't need to read the book. You can do these first, do all these if you need to, and then catch up later, read the book, do the quiz. But this week it's how does your use of language, how does that depend on your culture or the co-culture you're communicating within? So in Hawaii, it's so easy. So think about that. I know some of you folks are living on the continent, other places. Think about how you code switch with the words you use, the actual language we use. And we'll get a lot of ideas here in a few minutes as we talk. But that's the Flipgrid this week, 1 to 2 minutes, super easy. Okay, it could be the difference, the language you use at home versus in high school. So be creative. As usual, we have a quiz due this week, so it's chapter 4, verbal communication. And if you want to hang around after these assignment instructions, I'll talk about the slides and go through that a little bit. Might help you with the quiz as well. Remember, you can take these as many times as you want until you get the grade you're happy with before the due date. After the due date, you can still take it one more time. Okay, email me directly, jbho@hawaii.edu, if you need help with the quizzes, you need me to open those up for you again. Here's a writing assignment for this week. Folks are doing a really good job. We'll look at some of the titles in a minute here. But again, the key concepts, choose and bold one. So just cut and paste it over there, bold it. And what it really does, it helps you get ready for more college writing courses and work later, where you put the prompt there, gives you, looks like you got more, but it helps you to focus as you write. Okay, so make sure you're cutting and pasting at least one of those over there. And the terms, choose 2 of those. I'll get into these in a little more detail in the video if you want to hang out for a few minutes here. This one's very important this week because next week, week 7, the invitational speeches are due. If you haven't done the informative speech, make sure you do that. That's like a letter grade and a half, and they're really not that hard. Look at what folks have done already. There's some great informative speeches up there. The invitational speech is more challenging, so try to do it in order. Yeah, try to do the informative one and then the invitational one. And for this week, what we're looking for, really your main points again, okay? But as you look through some of the topics, there's some pretty controversial topics up there already, which is fine. That's the point of invitational speaking. Your main points, try to show in your main points invitational language, okay? Equality, value, and self-determination. And again, go through the worksheet if you have to, or skim ahead to chapter 15 and look through that chapter, and it'll explain this. Again, we're not trying to persuade people. We're trying to invite them to explore an issue or articulate a position. Okay, so one of those 2 things. So that's it for this week. Again, the Flipgrid video, the quiz, and the discussion forum post. I think some folks have done all of them already, so there's really good examples up there if you're not sure what to do. Please read the book. If you want to hang out, give me, I don't know, a few more minutes, and I'll try to explain the terms to you as we go through the slides and maybe some of the forum posts, okay? This is chapter 4 in your book. You can have it read to you as well if you're not sure about that. You can have it read to you. Here's some terms for the chapter, and you can also write about these. I'm going to do something a little bit different in this video. I'm going to talk about the terms here and then show you some of the titles that folks are writing in the class. So it kind of makes sense to us. Okay, so here there's a list, and I bolded and put an asterisk by some of the terms that are important that you want to write about. So language ambiguous, it really means, right, there's no one right meaning for everything. And you folks know, you probably studied this in your English class. Denotative meaning, I remember this one from like the dictionary. So the dictionary meaning, right, if you look up cool in the dictionary, it means like, ooh, cold, cool temperature, right? You look up sick, it means ill. I wouldn't say that guy's really cool. She caught a sick wave, right? So the connotative meaning is that feeling we're adding to words, and I'll show you some in a minute. Slang, acronyms are the letters we put together to make up a word, right? And euphemisms, instead of saying someone died, we say they passed away in certain situations, right? Other times, we don't use a euphemism. So very quick, let's switch over to some of the titles that you folks have been writing in your posts and look for denotative, connotative meanings and also euphemisms. Okay, so here's a list of titles that folks in this class used for their posts, and I ask you to write a title. You get points for that, and as part of it's communication, adapting your message to others, getting folks' attention. Rather than just saying it's Jeff's post. So, in terms of let's start with denotation. So the dictionary meaning. So you can look at some words here, right? And they're all pretty straightforward. Which ones kind of have a feeling to it that we're not sure? If you look up here, ho, we go beach, cuz. This word alone, ho, you could look up, I guess. And I think this word has evolved quite a bit in my generation. In the 80s, kids would run up to me. My last name is Ho, and there were 3 of us, and it was ho, 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 Merry Christmas. So I don't know. You could look that up now. What is the definition of that now, right? But there's multiple feelings. Here in Hawaii, right, the connotation of ho is very different from anywhere else in the world, probably, right? As you move along here, this one that caught my attention down here was coming out, ... as a couple. So see what Corinne did there, non-verbally with those dots there. But coming out, right? If you look up the term coming out, the denotation is you're coming out of a room, you're coming out of something. But the connotation used here, we would assume it's coming out about one's sexual identity, right? That's how strong the connotation of the word coming out is. You can just say, hey, look, I came out to my parents when I was 13. And most people in America know what you're talking about just because of the words you use, right? So coming out, those 2 words there, the denotation and connotation are completely different, right? If you take that out of context. And then you notice Corinne puts there as a couple. Okay, I want to read. A few more titles here. Hang on a second. A couple more to point out here. Maintain this. I like how he's here. It just says maintain this, and you have the ... there. Just so you know, actually, someone brought this up in the last class. There's research that shows if you add that ellipses at the end or the 3 dots, it's kind of disconfirming to folks. I never thought about that, right? But you're leaving them hanging. So just so you know, that ... can be disconfirming. And if you look at the message, what Cowie put here, it's pretty funny. Maintain this. So the denotation, if you look up the dictionary meaning of maintain, there's ameliorate, maintain a car, maintain a relationship. And all she's adding is a very simple word, this. And as we talk about the invitational speech, maybe I wouldn't turn to my boss and go, maintain this, if I just started with that. What's the connotation of that word, right? And maybe this is a euphemism, I don't know. We need to talk. There's another one, right? That's a really good topic that Anna wrote there. And again, simple words. You look in the dictionary, very simple, but there's a very strong connotation with those 4 words in that particular order, right? And you could say it's a euphemism, right? For there's a problem, there's an issue, we need to discuss this. But just saying we need to talk. Here's another one, Healthy Relationships 101. Think how powerful just putting those 3 numbers are together. 101, right? Speech 101. How to do anything 101. In English, we see that and we go, oh, it means the connotation is a basic course in something. Okay, and that last one there is really good here. I understand. Okay, this term can be so loaded, can be interpreted so many different ways, right? Okay, so verbal communication. Okay, a couple more terms for you here. Language is influenced by culture and co-culture, so you could talk about this or write about it this week. One is regionalism. We have a lot of regionalisms in Hawaii, and also the continent, right? You've been to the East Coast, West Coast, South, all different ways. So it's kind of like the slang for the region, right? And then cultural competence is how do you adjust your verbal communication, the words you use, depending on the culture you're in, right? So in terms of what gifts do you give, how do you say things, and so on. If we look at some of the topics folks are writing about, we can keep looking for, right, connotation, denotation, euphemisms. And then we're going to add here now regionalisms as well. Here's some examples from my other class, actually. This is a regionalism. And I think, folks, if you're from Hawaii, you've been in Hawaii, you'll understand what this means. But if you have not experienced language from Hawaii, you might not know what it means, but Maui no Ka'oi or Oahu no Ka'oi. This is a regionalism, right? What is no Ka'oi? Do you think about it? If you got the answer, let us know. One more up here, if I scroll up here, hang on one sec. Here's one that says duck, duck, a goose. This is kind of more of a colloquialism, right? We all understand this. It could be in New Jersey, it could be in Hawaii, it could be in another country, and duck, duck, goose, kind of that. What does it mean, right? The random selection of who gets chosen. Okay, almost done here. A few more things to talk about. Language, the language you use is absolutely affected by culture, gender, and technology. And very quickly, it's kind of fun, right? Think about the games kids play. Think of the games you played as a child. Think of the games you see the kids play in front of you now. Are there certain ways we're engendering them based on the games, right? The toys they have, our styles, the topics. And this is important, interruptions and discussions. Look in the book. It's really interesting. Who interrupts more? And then in general, not for everyone, of course, with always exceptions, what do different genders tend to discuss more? What are the topics we talk about, okay? And what's our conversation like? And again, we talked about this in the last chapter, androgynous communicators. There's a real benefit, right, to not choosing language that is especially male or female, nor spotlights either gender. So think about how when you write, is it possible to be androgynous when you write? You're writing, or the words that you choose. Very quickly, a few more here. This isn't required. This is just for fun. If you're in a long-term relationship, the words you use matter. So debriefing talk, right? To talk about what happened while you're on the phone or as you're using language only without nonverbals. Debrief what happened before. Topic avoidance. You actually should avoid some topics, right? When you're writing, when you're using language. Affection and intimacy through language. How do you express that? And this is a big one. If you read this and then you take Speech 181, this is pretty important. Just the act of planning the future together through words, whether it's on the phone or through email, studies show that you have a better chance of that long-distance relationship working out just by planning the future together, right? Self-fulfilling prophecy. A couple more here. You're not required to do this at all, just for fun. Language and public speaking. Think about plagiarism and hate speech. So in this class, we're thinking, what's the difference between interpersonal, between two people, intrapersonal, to yourself, and public speaking? Think about plagiarism and hate speech as it relates to public speaking, right? In our own minds, we can plagiarize, we can hate. But in public speaking, where does that get you, and how does that, really work in the world? Is it something that is useful? Let's put it that way. How much of it do you see out there? Last one here, language and civility. Free speech, absolutely free speech matters, but are we civil, and do we care about being civil anymore? And being mindful of these things, are we mindful of that? That's it. Let me know if you have any questions. Email me, jbho@hawaii.edu, or show up to our Zoom anytime. Okay, have a good one. Thank you.